Many members of the Grand Army of the Republic carry this kind of view. This is a common national sentiment. While not expressed this bluntly, it is found throughout many of the papers of the period, as I looked at Civil War papers. So that said, let's look at now Utah and the Grand Army of the Republic. Because Patrick Edward Connor, who is responsible for founding this great institution of which we're at right now, is also known as the father of Utah mining. One of his big goals is to undermine the Mormons by bringing miners and Gentiles into the state. And he actually tells his soldiers during the Civil War, hey, look for Indians, keep the peace, but I'm going to send you some mining equipment and go ahead and use it, and you can still count it as work time. And so they're out prospecting. He's got soldiers out prospecting, looking for mineral deposits, and they find a bunch. This is a very wealthy state mineral-wise. So the first GAR post in Utah, we are uncertain when it's founded. There's been some other research that's been done, and it looks like, though, it could have been as early as about 1873. There was a post established here at Camp Douglas, then Fort Douglas. We don't know the exact year, but by 1873, there are reports in the Salt Lake Tribune and Herald and the Deseret News talking about veterans organizations. In Decorations Day in 1873, so Memorial Day, Connor and a committee of these veterans in this organization, it doesn't call it the Grand Army of the Republic, but it mentions this organization, we assume it's the GAR. They put out a call in Salt Lake for people to donate so they can decorate the graves here in Utah and honor those who have died. Because lots of the miners coming in are Civil War veterans. And there's thousands and thousands of these miners coming into the state. So Brigham Young and several leaders of the church donate a substantial amount of money. I don't recall the exact amount, but it's a substantial amount of money. They donate it for the purpose of honoring these veterans. The committee meets and makes a resolution and refuses to accept donations from, quote, Brigham Young and other leading Mormons. They give the money back rather than have the money to decorate the graves because it's coming from Brigham Young. Again, this is Patrick Connor and Brigham Young. They're just so at odds, they refuse the money and won't let the church do anything with that decoration day. Well, that puts some sour relations, and the word on that spreads, and so it doesn't help things. The first permanent post, it was mentioned, Andy mentioned about James B. McKean. He comes out, and the first GAR post, so we have formal records of it being established, September 18th, 1878, in Salt Lake. That's known as post number 1. And it's named after McKean. It is exclusively not non-LDS. We don't have any records of any Latter-day Saints attempting to join into that first post. Other posts are shortly established. There's a post named after Maxwell, a federal marshal in the territory. Read a great story if you haven't read the book on him. It's an excellent book. And they're continuing to be established, but we just don't have a record of Latter-day Saint soldiers, especially from the Lot Smith Company, trying to join. They were able to join based on the bylaws. And we don't have journals from them saying why they don't join, but reading between the lines, they can see what's going on here. Because what's going on is the GAR, based on this 1856 twin pillar of barbarism comment that's made and actually incorporated into the Republican platform. The first pillar of barbarism is slavery. The second pillar of barbarism is polygamy. The GAR sees the Civil War as eliminating the first pillar, slavery. Now they have to contend with the second pillar, polygamy. This guy, Paul Vandervoort, he goes from being vice commander to being commander of the Grand Army of the Republic. He is vehemently anti-polygamy. He steers the entire, he goes out of his way to comment on polygamy. And in fact, let's see, let me give you a couple of quotes of his if I can find it right quick. Well, I'll just tell you what he says. What he does is he looks for opportunities to talk about polygamy and what a great ill it is. In fact, here's one of the comments that's made in a rally that he sponsors. He says, "The boys in blue will do it again. We'll fight again to bring freedom to the slaves here in Utah." That's the women. And so they see this as a second, he's calling, Vandervoort's almost calling for a second civil war against the Mormons to get rid of polygamy. At this same time, they're establishing the women's organizations, and they get taken over by anti-polygamy forces as well, partially because they're shaped in Van der Voort's image. And so, in that early day, they're not real popular in Utah. They established later. But what we've got here is there's several sources of prejudice, I think, against these locksmith veterans. First is, they don't have any combat duty. These veterans, most of them, have seen some really horrible warfare. The locksmith cavalry soldiers serve 90 days, chase a few Indians, build a few bridges, and watch the mail from their perspective. And now they do exactly what they're asked to do by Lincoln. They're not asked to go fight Confederates, but they never see a Confederate. The worst they do is a couple of shots are fired catching some Indian horse thieves. And they have one guy drowned in the Snake River up at Shoshone Falls. And so from the combat veterans' perspective, these guys don't deserve to come in for that reason alone. But add on to that, that's my time, I need to speed up. They have short active duty service. These are people that have served 4 years, the others, these guys serve 90 days. They are Mormons, and they're polygamists. And so you add all those together, they're just not thrilled to have them in. Well, in Salt Lake what happens is, morning polygamy, they fly the flags at half-staff. Church members do it. It's not an official thing. They just do it one day. They just wake up and flags in Salt Lake fly at half-staff. Flags. Uh-oh. If you want to get the GAR's attention, you do something with the flag. It's seen as a huge insult. And so what they do is the following summer, they set up a series of rallies in skating rinks